The Ark Encounter, that theme park of the young Earth creationist Ken Ham, seems to be undergoing a decline in attendance over the last couple months. That's notable, and we need to talk about that. I'm going to show you the stats. We'll talk about the significance of that. But I've got a second item for this special episode of This Week in Creationism, and that is Fox and Friends recently highlighted the Ark Encounter and a trip to the Ark Encounter on their morning news program. We need to talk about how that happened and how that might be connected to this declining attendance at the Ark Encounter. We've got that coming up next. All right, here we go. I have graphed out the attendance again for the Ark Encounter since its inception, which would be, I think, July 2017. And so each of these different colored lines represents the monthly attendance values for all those particular years. Now, I got to give a couple caveats before we talk about the numbers. All right. These numbers come from, all right. First of all, I need to thank my source. All right. There's a person who diligently does a public record request to Williamstown, Kentucky, to request the amount of money they've received from the Ark Encounter for safety fees. So every ticket sold, that would be for paid entry into the Ark Encounter, they're supposed to be charging a fee for safety, which then goes to the local town, which provides ambulance service and fire service and so forth. All right. Safety services for the Ark Encounter, since it does increase the population of that area. And so therefore, you can back calculate the number of paid tickets or entries into the Ark Encounter by simply calculating the amount of money they received each month, dividing it by the total amount of each for each ticket. Now, this doesn't get the actual total number of people that come in the gates, because kids 0 to 10 are free and they're not charged the safety fee. And therefore, these numbers don't reflect children entering into the Ark Encounter. It also probably does not reflect some events that they have there. For example, I've been there for conference type thing in their conference center, but didn't actually go into the Ark Encounter exhibit itself, didn't pay the fee to go in there. So all I had to do is come in, parked, and then went to that particular venue. They have special events like concerts and so forth. And if people don't actually attend or go to the Ark Encounter, they're probably not paying this safety fee. So that means that there are more people on the grounds of the Ark Encounter than just the numbers that you're seeing here in this graphic, if you're taking a look at the numbers before you. But I think this is a fairly, accurate representation of the numbers of adults, right? Adults, seniors, and juniors, 10 and up, have purchased tickets to encounter the Ark, we'll say. And so, nothing surprising about the structure of this graphic, right? You're not going to have a lot of visitors in January, February, and then it begins pulling up in March. Kids are on spring break, and so they might have visitors in March, April, and then the summer season kicks in, right? And then in October, there's kind of like, Light Fest, and they have a bunch of other events that happen. They do a lot of events in October to sort of like hold on to some visitors at that time. And then it tails off again, of course, in November, December. All right. And so this has been the trend over many years. Now you see this green line down here, that's 2020. And the 2020 numbers, of course, would be, they start out about the same for January and February. And then, oh, man, something happened. And in March, the numbers went down instead of up. And then they went way down in April and May. Well, that would be COVID, right? So that had a big effect even the rest of the year. And then if you follow that through to 2021, all right, 2021. The light blue line, it actually kicks in right over here and starts to go back up to about where it had been before, across there. Now, okay, the reason we're here, the reason this is a special episode is to talk about these two values right here. right? We've got around 50,000 or so visitors in May, but that is a 21% decline year over year. And you can see that that year was one of the lower years compared to, say, 2019, which is when 90,000, and that would have been about a 30% decline. And then look back here in April. This trend began in April. In April, we only had 45,000 visitors to the Ark Encounter compared to the year before, which is 67,000 or so. So that's a 35% decline year over year. 35%, that is a significant value. And why is that? I can't come up with a quick reason. I mean, the weather's not been great this spring. It was a little bit colder, a little bit rainier, but I don't think that's going to knock out that many individuals. There has been a price increase this year in January. I'll show you that in just a moment, how much it costs to go to the Ark Encounter, but everything is going up. And so this is a very significant number. This really sticks out as a considerable decline. And I personally find it a little surprising that it's been down that much. 35% over the last year, up 42% decline since its highest value in 2019. All right, so the question will be in June, which we should find out in another month or so, what the June's value would be. Will it spring back up? In which case, this was just some kind of blip in the system. They're as far as I can tell, they're advertising the same way. They're pushing everything out in the same way. It's not like there's been problems at the Ark that would have caused them to shut down. I don't know of any internal thing. I don't know of any bad press or something that would have caused a significant decline. I think if they say anything at all, they'll probably just try to blame it on the economy. That's what they've done in past years when it wasn't as high as 2019. Actually, let's just go look at those numbers. All right, let's just go to the total attendance, right? Just added up all the months and how many total paid visitors have been recorded. And you see that 2019 was the high watermark. 2017, I should note that 2017, they didn't open until July. So this is only half of a year and it's about 500,000. So if you project that out, and of course, there was a lot of excitement in that first year, they might have had 1 million if they had been open the entire year. So 2018, a little bit, obviously less than 1 million. And then 2019, the high watermark. 2020, pretty much a wipeout from COVID. A bounce back pretty good, back up to around 750,000. But then you can see that they have pretty much evened off, right? Leveled off. Not a particularly significant change, from year to year. And so this seems to be like, the numbers that they're going to bring in. Now, this is despite the fact that they have built extensively, right? They continue to add to the theme park. They've added more attractions and so forth. But that is kind of the way of theme parks, right? I mean, you got the Ark. Now you got to build restaurants and zip lines and carousels, and they're building right now a mini Jerusalem. They built a theater, and then they also have a conference center. Like, all those things have existed since after 2019. So really, they had more visitors when they had a lot fewer things to visit other than just the Ark. But the thing is, once you've seen the Ark, you're not necessarily like, it's not that exciting. So it's not like you're like, I got to go back and see the Ark. It's like the whole experience. You got to just keep adding. And this is the bane of large theme parks, is like, you got to make something new in order to like bring that person back. You can't just depend on new visitors. Otherwise, you pretty much are going to go down in attendance. So the fact they've been able to maintain is kind of like this treadmill, right? You just constantly are building new, advertising more, trying to say there's something else to rein you in and bring you back one more time. And they've been managing to do that through 2024. But look at 2025. Now, of course, we're only 4 months into it, a quarter of the year. And you might think, well, if I just stack up this and we got the summer coming up, right? So this could rebound and you can end up with about the same amount. And it very well might be. But let me show you the breakdown now. I've just taken just January through May's attendance for each of those years. Now, 2017 is not included because, again, they weren't open in 2017. So here's 2019. And again, that's the high water mark if you're just counting the first 4 months. 275 or so thousand visitors, and 2020, not many. And then you can see here there is some more variation when you look at the beginning of the year. So maybe that suggests that maybe there's a weather situation that causes people to change their minds about whether they're going to come or not. Because 2023 was the biggest year of the post-COVID time. We'll see here in 2025, we've got this is a real number, right? This is apples to apples comparison. The first 4 months of the year using the same kind of statistics, the same reporting statistics. We've got a 21% decline in attendance to the Ark Encounter. That is not something that they can ignore. And it's a 29% decline from the high water mark in 2019. And when I go through and I look at those numbers and ask how much money is that, that's about $2.5 million less that they're bringing in this year over last year. $2.5 million. And it's like, well, how do you know that's $2.5 million? Well, we know approximately how many paying customers they have. And then you can go look at their prices, like how much do they charge per person. And here we have the Ark Encounter over here, right? So the Ark Encounter now is up to $64.99. I think the first time I went, which was a week after it opened, I need to go back and look at my records on that. It might have been $45.99, possibly $49.99, but I think it started a little bit less than that. Maybe even $39.99. And then it got moved up to $54, $59, and now it's at $64.99 for an adult. And that's pricing before tax. Parking not included. Parking's $10. So if I went myself, and by the way, I will be dropping by the Ark Encounter. I should say I'll be driving by the Ark Encounter in just a couple weeks because I'll be on my way back from Tennessee. And I'll certainly drive into and drive by the Ark Encounter and take a look at it. But for me to enter the doors and go in and take a look to see what's new, and I would love to go in and look at the new things that they've done and check out the exhibits and see what changes they've made. But I just can't justify the $64.99 plus $10 parking plus tax, right? So we're looking at about $90, right, to get into the Ark. Seniors, $54.99. Youth, 11 to 17, $31.99. Put that all together, figure kind of like a 50 plus, it's at least $50 on average for the mix of people that are coming into the doors. So that's $50 times the number of decrease in the number of people that have entered. So this is not something that I don't think they can ignore. That's $2.5 million less income you're bringing in, and yet you've grown over the last year. You probably have a few more employees than you had last year. You certainly have more facilities than you had last year. Expanded the zoo, have a couple new buildings which have to be heated and cooled. Right? So your infrastructure costs are going up and your attendance is going down. That's not a recipe for success. Now, I don't want to say that, 200,000 people still coming in the doors. That's still a whole lot of people. And that's a whole lot of income coming in. I think that there's not a danger that they're just going to go out of business. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's going to crash and burn. And no, there's plenty of people out there yet to come. That they can draw in, and they also have a lot of, let's say, big dollar donors that will fill the void. I don't know whether they break even or not. I suspect they're still not breaking even, and I don't think they may ever break even, but they have a lot of donors. And so that might not matter. But surely, the vision of the place was originally estimated. There was an original estimate in there, and I have all the documentation from their original emails and all the things that they sent out in their pitch, all right, before they built it, in which they were doing fundraising. And they told, those who gave money, it's like, we're expecting our auditors and our, the folks we paid to like determine like how successful this would be told us that, 1.4 million to 2.1 million was kind of the range that they were going for. And you can tell by looking at the parking lot, they created an absolutely enormous parking lot, which I don't believe has ever been filled to capacity. There may be some really special days in which you have much, much larger audiences. They might fill it up, but they're certainly not filling it on a daily basis. They're not coming anywhere close to that 1.4 to 2.1 million. Again, going back here, maybe a million. Now, if you include all their concerts in the fall, in which I think people can just come into the grounds and then go to the concert, and they may be paying for the concert. They probably don't have to pay the safety fee for that, because I think that's tied to the Ark Encounter exhibit itself. I don't know about these things. And of course, Answers in Genesis isn't exactly forthright about it, how this all works. And they don't come out with any attendance numbers. Ken Ham once in a while will post, on social media. It's like, oh, record breaking day, number of visitors. And often it's like, throwing out like 10,000 people visited on the weekend. And he might say something about this holiday weekend we're on right now. If he doesn't, then I'm going to know that the numbers aren't as good as they've been in the past, because anytime the numbers are really good, there's always a lot of hype over it. So they have lots of ways of making it sound like, things are all great. But having watched and listened for a long time, I've heard much, much, much less hype about the number of visitors they're getting. It's just like many thousands, just generic language is what Ken Ham has been using lately. And that indicates to me that, yes, they're not increasing. If anything, they're now decreasing, as we're seeing. But we'll see. We'll see if that trend continues. Okay, but I have one more thing that I want to show you. And it does relate to the Ark Encounter. And I think it relates to a need to create more interest in the Ark Encounter to boost these numbers. So it's my second evidence that there is some, a little bit of angst there about the attendance at the Ark Encounter. And that has to do with a recent spot on Fox and Friends on the morning show on Fox TV. In which one of the members of the Fox and Friend group visited the Ark Encounter and had their visit recorded, and that becomes a segment on Fox and Friends. So let's go there and let's take a look at that. Okay, here we are. So a friend of mine tagged me on this. I hadn't seen it myself, and she was like, "Hey, you got to check this out." So here we have Fox and Friends host Ainsley Earnhardt gets a first-hand look at the incredible Ark Encounter, featuring a life-size replica of Noah's Ark. Now, a couple things to note. I started watching this and didn't realize what was really going on here until I went back and kind of looked at it again, and then I looked at this page. Let me point out some things to you. So look up here. We see Fox and Friends host gets a first-hand look at the incredible Ark Encounter, featuring a life-size replica of Noah's Ark in Williamstown, Kentucky. Plan your trip today. This has gotten 5.8 million views. Plan your trip. So like a promotion for the Ark Encounter on Fox and Friends. Now look up here, Fox News, and this is the actual Fox News Facebook page, but it's Fox News with Ark Encounter, all right? Fox News with the Ark Encounter, a paid partnership. A paid partnership. Did you get that? And Answers in Genesis paid Fox and Friends to come visit, to create a spot for Fox and Friends. It doesn't really look like an ad. It actually fits in a time slot that's like regular, like, their usual things that they do rather than advertising. But this is actually a promotion piece made to look like it's Fox and Friends, like, hey, we wanted to do a story on the Ark Encounter. No, the Ark Encounter said, hey, we'll pay you to come and do a story for us. And so, of course, they're going to see great things about them. Not that they wouldn't have anyway, probably. So let's get a little taste for this, right? Let's check out a little bit of this. Let's do a little free advertising for the Ark Encounter. We'll just listen to a tiny bit of this to get a flavor for it.
So imagine seeing Noah's Ark come to life.
Well, you actually can this summer at the Ark Encounter.
Do you see this right here? Ark Encounter features replica of Noah's Ark. But what I'm noticing is this segment is made possible by our sponsor, the Ark Encounter. Okay, so yeah, we're visiting the Ark Encounter. But this segment was made possible by the Ark Encounter. So this is advertising, right? This is advertising right before the summer season, hitting millions of people, which are square in the center of their, prime demographic. And by demographic, I mean the folks that watch Fox News are going to be the most likely to be interested in going to the Ark Encounter.
In Kentucky.
And I was able to take my daughter and some of her friends and some of their moms to get the full experience, and it was wonderful. Take a look. We're in Williamstown, Kentucky. We flew here today to see the Ark Encounter with our girls, with my friends. Brian's giving us a tour, 510 feet long. It's incredible. Look how big it is.
Tour and get to be on Fox News.
Whoa. Can you imagine if God came to you and said, I am going to have a flood and everyone's going to die except for you?
Yeah, we're not going to watch all this.
I need to go back by myself and just spend a few hours reading everything about Noah. Look at this wall. There is so much valuable literature and information there.
History.
Absolutely. And people thought he was probably crazy.
Oh, of course they did.
God says, I need you to build this 510-foot long, which is the size of about 5 whales in length. And, everyone said, what are you doing, you crazy man? And then it turned out to be a great decision listening to God.
So beautiful. I love when history comes to life.
Me too.
Did you see this on Fox Nation ever?
Williamstown, Kentucky. You can visit arkencounter.com for more
Here's your
information.
advertising.
Thank you to everyone there. Everyone's so nice that was working there.
Absolutely. Great job, Ainsley.
Thank you.
And your family and friends.
Thank you.
Do they really like it, or are they just paid to say that? All right, that's it. So I think these things are connected. I think the Ark Encounter is spending even more advertising dollars to chase fewer and fewer visitors. But reaching millions, we'll see. Maybe this will have effect. I'll tell you what, if I see 2 months from now, it goes right back up to the same numbers it was before, I think that this was probably money well worth spent. But this shows you the kind of, if you didn't think that the Ark Encounter and Ken Ham had big vision and are very much in the social media mainstream stream, all right, then here's your evidence right here. Fox News hyping up the Ark Encounter that you should all visit. Surprised the Speaker of the House wasn't there to visit as well. But that's another discussion for another time. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out with me. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.